Well, it's another great morning. Welcome to Tuesday, May 9, and Island Tea.
Good morning. I was like, no island tea greeting? How are you this
coming.
morning?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm hoping everyone else is the same. And I want to start off with some positivity. I feel like we need it. Everything that you are is enough. I saw this and it spoke to me because it's just plain and simple. Everything that you are, the good, the bad, the flaws, everything, it is enough. So whoever this reaches out to, whoever needs to hear this, everything that you are is enough. And I want to touch on, actually Sharon and I were just chatting and I'm kind of scared to even touch it. It is ridiculously hot outside. Oh my goodness. And I'm seeing they're saying in the news that the Caribbean weather is really hot. The season is warming up. It may be hotter than usual. And I'm thinking, how much hotter can it actually be? This is madness. And they start off so calmly. It has been a hot couple of months. No, it's been a ridiculously hot couple of months. I do not know why it's this hot. I am terrified to even talk about the heat because I can only imagine what it means for hurricane season. So, yeah, I'm a little bit scared. But it has been a really hot couple of months. And according to the Barbados-based Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum, in its heat outlook from May to October 2023, excessive heat can be expected. What? Especially in August and September. The heat outlook forecast notes May to July, marking the first half of the Caribbean heat season. April, May to October may well be hotter than usual for most. And here I thought it was just me. Intense nighttime and daytime heat is expected in much of the Caribbean from August to September/October, marking the peak of the heat season. And so cooling needs to rise sharply towards August and September. Otherwise, we already know what that's going to bring. And I'm not going to put it out there. I'm not going to say it. But just to say that it's been ridiculously hot. The majority of the forecast models predict that an El Nino will start this season, May to July. 73% chance of that happening. And for all the geography students, we know what El Nino is. I heard you guys were talking about earthquakes yesterday. And so we're battling earthquakes and the heat and, God knows what else. But you know what? Positive thoughts, because God knows what's going to happen with this hurricane season. I actually saw someone put out the list of names for the season this year. And I was actually teasing my sisters, telling them, oh my God, we're in it because there's one called Franklin. I was like, heaven help us. Hopefully that will be one of the better ones and it'll pass us. Oh my goodness. But prayers up, definitely, because I can't deal with this heat. It is a pain to dress in the morning. And here I thought it was my age kicking in. Also in the news, and Jamster and I were actually talking about this last night. It seems as though there is a Republican wave going across the Caribbean. All of these Caribbean prime ministers are suddenly talking about becoming a republic. What struck me was that they were doing it at the coronation. They're having this coronation. They had the coronation Saturday. And I think a lot of the Caribbean prime ministers attended. I know I saw Gaston Brown. I saw Ralph. I saw, of course, our prime minister, Dr. Drew, the prime minister from Grenada. There was quite a lot of them visiting for the coronation. But what really struck me is that in every speech or interview that they gave while at the coronation and to the BBC was talking about becoming a republic. How can you come to my party and then talk about that, the fact that you and I are really not friends and you don't like me? Hi, good morning.
I'm still recovering, but my voice is Not the best, but I'm going to try.
We'll take it.
It's interesting that you made that because I was looking at it and I said to myself, how is it that you go up there, you're part of the people's coronation,
and this is the interview you're going to give? Like, I kept screenshotting them and sending them to my family
Let me
chat.
just throw a hand
Not that
grenade.
I disagree with the interviews.
It's just time and place.
Well, let me just throw a hand grenade in that now.
Throw it. Let me duck.
You guys are outraged at that? Y'all not outraged at the reason?
No. It's not
for
outrage.
that even
No.
to come
No.
up?
It's not
No, let me-
outrage.
Outrage, you know what I
Okay,
mean?
let me-
No, for me, it's like, if this is the way you really feel, then let your words and your actions match.
This is
right?
what I'm saying. Look at Jamaica. Jamaica is on its way becoming a republic. And Jamaica decided not to participate.
Precisely.
So
Mia
Jamaica
didn't go either.
Yeah, you see Jamaica
They
has
didn't take part?
No,
No, they
Jamaica
didn't.
didn't go. And you see Jamaica, therefore the actions and the words align. How is it that we are saying that we are admitting that
We want to be a republic.
we are admitting that, having the monarch there is going to be somewhat a restriction on us, but yet still participate in the same length in a coronation that would be restrictive on us.
I mean,
So I admire Jamaica's stance because
and,
they haven't.
and Barbados, because
Barbados is
Mia
already a
didn't-
republic.
Right, but my thing is, some republics went. Guyana
But
went.
I mean, in the sense that with Jamaica, from my example with
Right,
Jamaica,
yes.
Jamaica isn't a republic yet, but they understand that this is the way that we are going down, and so
Right.
if we are going down this way, we are not going to participate,
And I agree.
then
Because when I saw it, right, I'm like, okay, cool. We went, right? Pretty big contingent, but I'm not going to touch that. But we went. And then you're giving an interview and you're like, yes, we are not free while he is still our head of state. We are working towards becoming a republic. And then Ralph Gonsalves says, the monarchy is an absurdity, and we need to cut the umbilical cord. Why are you there then? Why?
it's not just being there, but you could see you're there, you're smiling. You see
You're
the
taking pictures. Yeah, there's a picture with all of them. I screenshot it. I was like,
see
what in
all of
God's
them
name
smiling.
is this?
Well, you could look at it as you have to go up into the lion's mouth to tame the
It's
lion.
diplomacy.
Yeah, it's part. It's
So,
part of
Jams,
it.
I
It's
invite
part
you
of
to my
it.
party, and then you come to my party and say, I really never did like candy, I don't even know why I'm here. Really?
Nah, but it's
You
a little.
can't
it's-
come to
it's-
my party and do that. For me, right, I understand it's diplomacy. I understand that you kind of have to play the long game. But what I don't understand is, why would you give those types of interviews while you're there? You could have simply wait until you come back to your territory and then say, yes, I did attend and, it was okay, but we still feel like this is the way we're going to go. This is the best way for us to move as a nation.
Imagine
You
you're
can't do
going
that
to
at my
imagine
party.
you're going to the wedding of Jane and John, and then you have your own
Toast.
your own perception of should they be married or not, but you're still attending.
Right?
And then when it's time for the toast, he said, "Well, I never liked John for Jane."
Yep. I don't even know why they're married.
I don't even know why they're married.
It's just madness to me. I found it so crazy. I was like, what is happening here?
But
What am I
again,
even looking at?
I think the stance that Jamaica took was it was a clear stance.
Principled.
It shows that their actions align with their words. They're saying that we're not participating because
Thank
we are on
you.
our way to becoming a republic.
I was so shocked. When I saw the headline, I was like, oh my God, we're doing this here?
But let's see what
Hey,
the other
it
persons have to
couldn't-
say in relation to it.
It couldn't happen to nicer people.
Oh my goodness. This is true. I'm not, no, please don't start me up this morning. I'm trying to be very nice.
Nicer people meaning the British.
I
That's
know
what
exactly
mean.
what
yeah.
you mean. And I'm saying, don't start me
Yeah.
up because, like, ugh.
Don't start no stuff. Won't be no stuff. Okay. You guys want to take a call?
Sure.
Okay. Island Tea, you are on the ear.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Yes, I'm fine. I think what this was actually for local consumption. It wasn't so much the British, okay? It was to make sure that the the delegations were, the sending of delegations were rationalized for people back home, local consumption. All right, and so I think the leaders are aware that there is this undercurrent of wanting to break the ties, because, as I said, it really doesn't.
When you say local, when you say local consumption, what you refer to?
Do you mean us? Like
Back in the
it's for
Caribbean.
us?
No, I want no. Be
For
clear.
the Caribbean.
What is for local consumption?
They appear, what you refer to as going to the party and basically saying that you really shouldn't be there.
So that was for
and
us.
not liking
He has a point.
the people who are throwing the party.
So that was for
That-
us.
Yes, it was for us to I guess it's a case of eating your cake and still wanting to have it.
I mean,
And we know how that works.
but I don't
it isn't
understand. No, but I
polite
don't. Before you go on,
representation.
Mr. McMahon, I don't understand what you mean for local consumption. Are you saying that we, the people, wanted them there to go up there and then say otherwise?
that's not what he said.
No,
he
I-
said
I
they were
don't
doing
think
it for local
that there was
consumption. They're two
consensus
different things.
on wanting that high level of representation there. Okay? Maybe do like Guyana, because yes, even though Guyana was a republic, they sent their president, okay, which is,
Yeah, we saw him.
right?
Checkered socks and all, yes.
Yeah. Okay, I think Belize sent one person or something like that too. Okay?
But
So,
Mr.
polite
McMahon,
representation. We are, after all, part of the Commonwealth.
Yeah,
right.
But you don't
Right.
So
think.
you really should go.
No, but nobody.
No, but that's it. I understood why they were there, because like somebody messaged me and they said, well, why did Guyana's president go? And I said, we are still part of the Commonwealth. So I get the Commonwealth aspect and I get the whole diplomacy aspect. My problem with the whole thing is, why give such an interview while you're there? It's like, for me, I just found it was in poor taste, right? You're at my party, like I use the analogy, but you're really telling people, I don't even know why I'm here. I don't necessarily like her. For me, I thought, okay, fine, you're there for the coronation, have your moment, say whatever, smile, cheers, whatever. And then when you come back, say, listen, guys, we're still on the path to becoming a republic. That is still something that we want to work towards. But I just found it crazy.
Oh, you could have
like
made-
Ralph Gonzalez is there saying the monarchy is an absurdity, but you're there for the coronation.
But couldn't you have made a statement even before going saying that?
But
That too.
Shari's saying that the interview was done here.
Oh, it was done. Yeah.
Yeah, the one where he spoke to the BBC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, but where was
But
Ralph's
it's
done?
also a case of what is said and how it is said too, eh? Because you can make a point of, for instance, saying that, well, we're going to look at the relationship with a view towards strengthening it in cognizance of modern day realities or something like that. Use your usual diplomatic,
Right.
diplomatic speak, so to
Right,
speak,
right.
right? Without being offensive to your host.
See, exactly.
Okay, that I think is
Offensive?
really the point of departure comes.
Yes, Jamster,
Mac,
offensive.
really?
In other words, to use our local parlance here, you could work with your mouth shut.
Thank you.
But Mac, this whole idea that we have to hold our tongues after people have done monstrous things to us, and
Time and place. Time
we
and
worried about decorum
Yes.
after they've done
Yes.
after
You
that,
are worried
really?
about decorum
Yes,
if you
because
go to-
diplomacy
if you go
matters.
to their party and make it seem as if everything is fine and dandy.
Mr.
And
McMahon,
Exactly.
you're essentially dancing with your past oppressors, or the symbol of your
Yeah.
past oppressors.
Yes, Sharon, get him.
you have Jamster up in arms here,
Listen, he can't even comment because Sharon has him doing it.
Huh? It's almost as if Jamster, it sounds like a dog that is just barking.
You have Jamson
But-
passed.
but-
Yeah,
but-
you have Jamson
of
passed
getting
out. You can't even
right.
speak.
Mr. McMahon, cat has his tongue.
Whatever, man.
Yeah, it's a case of the dog that goes after the wheel of a car, and when the car finally stops, it just
Stops.
swings its tail and walks away.
Exactly.
Because it really and truly, we know we should be going towards Republican status. I mean, if we're really serious about our independence, that is the obvious next step. Okay?
True.
And so I don't think that there's any argument there among some people. I mean, I for instance, I think I told you all that there are benefits to being part of the Commonwealth and having good relations, even though they were our colonial masters at one time. It makes sense to have good relations with them.
True.
Okay? But at the same time, we really should be going towards Republican status and preparing our country for that. And that is why I say, that's one of the reasons I say it was probably for local consumption. All right? It's part, I think, of the
We've seen many.
preparation for a change in our
I agree.
relations with
Because, Mac, if you notice, you've seen lots of recent examples with Putin where, he'd make these grandstanding announcements and speeches. And if you're following the news on the war in Ukraine, you realize that makes no sense. You realize he's doing it for local consumption. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't forget that audience back home because in the final analysis, especially as in our case, I think we need a referendum.
Right. Yes, and I think he did allude to that.
Right. So you can't just, it may be your personal view that we should advance to Republican status as soon as possible, but you also have a country to persuade, right? And I suspect this was all part of it, okay? I think I refer to the fact, too, that we had one of the larger delegations there in the Caribbean.
Yes.
And that does not really send a signal that we want to get out from under the monarchy fast.
Yep,
Okay.
because you know what? Funny you say that. Somebody on the chat is saying, why then spend thousands of dollars to go to the
No,
coronation
apparently
only to criticize
apparently
it?
they paid for it.
Who's they?
Who paid for it?
The British.
London?
The Brit-
Charles
British
paid for
paid
it?
for it.
That's what Sharon was telling
That's
me.
some of our reparation money gone.
Oh, okay. well, part of reparations, you said?
Hey, what if
if they're paying for it, fine, okay. But at the
gonna come
same
out of our
time,
check?
Yeah, I was about to
be
say
careful
that.
what you say at their party.
But Mac, I was just thinking, just being semi-funny. What if they paid reparations and then they said, okay, well, we're gonna
Gonna
deduct.
subtract this.
We're gonna deduct all those people that came for the coronation.
That would be funny. But you notice the BBC report also implied that King Charles has no problem with us leaving.
Yes.
You notice?
Yeah, but
And
remember when
even-
Mia
even
invited
some
him to her
further
thing?
in terms of an apology and reparations. I mean, he didn't do it, and he didn't say it would be given, but it was not the hard tone of get out of here kind of thing.
But
right?
it's funny that you actually say that because Charles has not really made a definitive statement on it, but the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has made a very definitive statement. He said no, he's against it. When they raised it in Parliament the last time they had a sit-in, he was like no. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, you are the first.
King Charles will probably be there after Sunak has gone. So
Exactly, because at the rate you're going.
I am more interested.
But I don't know if you guys have been following the British news, but do you know that apparently Sunak has not been he's been very hands off with the coronation
Yes.
plans and so on. And some commentators were were wondering,
I saw
what
him
that
walking
was
in with
about.
his wife, with Boris behind him, and Liz Truss, and I think she was like the shortest prime minister they've ever had, which is a shame,
Yeah.
just because she was a woman. But yes,
Yeah,
I'm so disappointed in him.
You have to look between the lines. You have to read between the lines and see that there's definitely a softening of the tone. The thing is, I think it was Piers Morgan who was in a debate who basically said, okay, why should we pay reparations? Should I ask for reparations from I think it was the Danes or whoever else invaded Britain?
It's just absurd.
Right?
I know.
Which, of course, don't make sense in the sense that there is a precedence for paying reparations.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? It's if you can get away with not paying. Okay? So we have every right to keep that reparation thing going. Don't know how it will end. Maybe it might boil down to, as opposed to the crown, individual entities, whether universities, churches, whatever, decide that, well, they're going to make some amends by doing something and close the chapter on that. Okay? Do it on a case-by-case basis or something like that, rather than a general thing. But at least I think the leaders have managed to make that the topic of conversation up there. That's the one good thing I see from it. Okay? But if I had thrown a party and you come there criticizing me.
After you already
I'll
posed
show
for
you the
pictures
door.
with me.
Yeah, but you see what the fallout is from all of this.
So,
Because-
Mr. McMahon,
Yeah.
are you pro monarch or anti?
No. Definitely not. In this day and age, you want to tell me that
All it
somebody
meant-
going to be enjoying the privilege simply because of the accident of the family they were born in?
I know.
Who wants that? I mean, not even the British people, I think, look at it in
But
terms
you know
in that
what?
terms.
I
The British
made a
people-
note. They spent like £125 million on this
they're
whole
objecting to it.
event, and it's taxpayers' money. I'm like, what?
They
Yeah.
like they like
And the
the
taxpayers were standing outside at the gate.
But I think they like the tradition.
They like the
and
tradition, and that
the
is what I'm
stability
saying.
and so on. Really,
that is
really-
that is a British tradition. That is
Yeah.
that is theirs. That is theirs to
right.
have.
You know, they don't want to be like any other. Well, the Republican type thing, which basically anything goes. You don't have no right. You have to work for it, kind of thing. For them, the tradition of years and years have served them well. Okay, because Britain is still very much. They're not like it used to be, but they're still very much a leader in the world. Look at how the world look at the whole coronation thing. They don't look at other coronations like they did.
But
The world doesn't
listen
look
to
at other
this.
coronations like they did. This one.
They invited Jill Biden, so she was there, of course, and Katy Perry was there, and my sister and I had such a laugh about this. She, of course, is an American singer, and she's singing "Light It Up" like the 4th of July. The 4th of July is when they gained independence from Britain, and that's what she's singing at the coronation. I was like, what kind of joke is this?
Oh, typical ignorant American.
Like, what kind of joke is
No,
this?
but you know that there's been a role reversal between United States and Britain, in that, you know, essentially Britain is under more influence from the United States than vice versa. And so they have to be also careful, especially since they've been trying to keep their distance away from the rest of Europe.
Right.
So they're in a really interesting place, because now that they've left, now that they've done the Brexit thing, they now have to be looking at winning more friends and influencing more people.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to pivot to India and Asia and so on, but that has been going very, very slowly. okay, and I think the British economy is one of the ones that whose recovery after COVID was pretty slow. Right? So they're in a bit of a pickle, I think, as they would say. But there's always that, what I call it, that stiff upper lip that the British have that they're going to pull through. And I think the monarchy is what helps in that regard.
I don't know.
Because they have this history.
Yeah, it
of
unifies
being
them.
tough.
Is that sense of stability, when political parties change, that the monarch
was
remains.
still there. The one good thing I find, I think that might be the only quality about Charles that I like, is that he's into sustainability, right? Which is kind of like a modern concept. So he's into, climate change and, planting for the future, sustainable living, that type of thing.
Yeah,
but
so
I feel like their recovery from COVID has been slow because of the two systems that they have, the monarchy and the whole Westminster system.
But I also think leaving the
Boris,
EU
right,
is a big part of that.
Most of that stuff.
How did the monarchy play into that recovery, sir?
Right, so that's what I'm saying. The monarchy is on one hand, and the prime minister is on the other. And Boris fumbled quite a bit, to use a football term, quite a bit with the negotiations after COVID with same India and the whole way they dealt with Brexit and Russia and the whole Russia-Ukrainian war. And the monarchy has not really been involved in that, or hasn't really put out much sayings on that. I mean, I'm pretty sure Elizabeth made a speech just before her passing, because, she passed after the whole thing. But I feel that even though the monarchy unifies England, it's not the same for Scotland or Ireland. It's not the same for the rest of the world. So there needs to be a coming together of Charles and Rishi, or whoever they're going to put next, because they've been changing prime ministers like nobody's business, and then have just one common voice, just one voice, because he only unifies England. I don't think the rest of Great Britain feels the same way.
That's one of the reasons why I think the monarchy was so resilient. The fact that they don't interfere in the more democratic aspect of their government.
Well, they're not allowed, but
Well, you guys do know that Charles has built up a reputation over the decades for being very opinionated.
Yes, he has.
that's what they said. Like, he's
and being less than
definitely-
objective about.
He's completely different from his
Yes.
mom. His mom was like,
didn't
"Mom's
seem
the word."
that
But
way inclined towards that when he was being crowned. You notice his look? He
looked terrified to
seemed
me.
more, this is the tradition. I'm going to try to do just as well as my mother did in terms of keeping this kingdom together. And so he'll do whatever it takes. And I don't think that would involve going up against the democratic institutions like the parliament and the prime minister and so on. I don't expect.
I don't
that
expect
Charles
him
would,
to do
Charles
it either.
would stamp his ideas on the British people like that. He's going to get pushed
well,
back.
quite a bit of them don't want him there. So, did you see
Again-
the amount of protesters that were there?
Again,
Not that many
no one
compared
would
to
want.
how many were there
I don't think he'll want
cheering him on, I
history
don't think.
to repeat itself. There was a time when Charles, the same King Charles, I think this King Charles II, when he had, it was him against the Parliament, Oliver Cromwell, and Parliament succeeded in that war, and you had the beheading of the monarch for the first time. So
I don't know. He'll have to do some.
that was one time that
fancy
Britain
footwork.
went into a state where, Parliament was in control, full control, and they had no monarch for a short time.
Wasn't there a case of a king being beheaded?
Right,
That's
that's
the
the
same.
same
That's the I'm
the
speaking
same one?
about.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and ironically,
Well, we know that-
coincidentally, his name was Charles as well.
History will repeat itself. No.
So I don't think I think they know from their history, and I don't think that that would happen again.
No.
Because we are-
But I think they're going to go through some really tough times as to the future of the monarchy, right? Either they're going to become more hands-on, or they'll just resign themselves to being, well, the figurehead that they currently are, okay, with no real power, right? It's just like our head of state down here, the Governor General, right? Essentially, the Governor General does what the sitting government wants, as long as it's within the law and the Constitution and so on. There's no attempt whatsoever to stamp any kind of authority from that office, the Governor General's office, or to have any edicts coming down from the king now vis-a-vis what happens in our country. And that's part of the discussion too, whether it really matters one way or another if we're a republic or we stay in the Commonwealth and stay under the monarchy, because really and truly in the grand scheme of things, nothing really changes. All right, apart from the emotional thing of relinquishing all ties, nothing really changes.
But at the end of the day, I know I had a debate with a friend of mine who said, okay, you change your monarch and you still have a president who more or less functions as a governor general in the ceremony and stuff like that. But it is our figurehead. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is ours, and
right.
How are you going to build an identity if you're forever
in the shadow
of someone else's culture?
Or like I say, I keep saying this and nobody listens.
What's that?
The Commonwealth is a confederation of Stockholm Syndrome sufferers.
You know, it's funny you say that. There was a reporter that
Why
was bringing
does no
over
one
a
say
report
this?
on Saturday. And you know what he said? He said the Commonwealth was basically an excuse for the colonizers to still have control in their subjects' lives. And I was like, oh my God, did he really just say that on air? But it's the truth, right? It's a bunch of colonies that have already left and gained their independence, and they're independent, but you're still holding them together as one, and you're the head.
How does that make sense?
How is that any different from what happened
Someone
before?
raped, kidnapped, stole from you, killed.
There are some advantages still of having that association.
Fair enough.
There's power in numbers.
Fair
There's
enough.
strength in numbers.
And
okay?
and
if you have like values, if you're a group of people with like values, who will have each other's back when it comes down to a crunch.
It just
I
means
think that's the sticking point, though.
It just
have
means
each other's back. Is that really what happens?
it just means that the former oppressor has some performative
cause in you.
conscience.
Yeah.
Performative conscience. That's all it is. It's not. They don't really care about
Well,
us.
Dr. Drew says he's going to hold a referendum, so that's what I'm going to wait to see. Because this Lord Ashcroft poll, I don't have a clue who took it.
Okay, Mac. Let's take another call. Sorry about that. Okay, caller, go right ahead.
Yes, good morning.
Hey.
Good morning, everybody. How you guys
good
doing?
morning.
Good,
How are you
thanks.
doing?
Yeah, good. I like this discussion, man.
Thank you.
But you know, my question was, why all the Caribbean islands, right? They went independence, and they know that there's another step to undertake, but yet still they park themselves up at independent status and stay there for like 40, 50, 60 years. You know what I mean? But you know, this step to the Republic can be a significant one because they can make a comeback. But another thing that I wanted to ask, would it be a good idea to show strength and all of them just make that move collectively, as you know, and have these discussions and educate the people and the public in a holistic way, like you know, in a group way, like
Okay,
you know,
cool.
why all of these islands can't like have discussions together now? Seeing that all of them is now talking about making this step, why
Okay.
can't they all collectively, you know, like have these discussions and see how and help each other out in terms of like constructing their constitutions going forward, you know, and show that strength.
Right.
Because, you know, it seems like all of them now want to take this step, and I would want to ask, you know, if that's something that they could do together collectively.
That's an interesting idea.
Here's another call. Caller. Okay, call. I'm really trying to.
Hello, good
I really know. I want to let the callers know. I let Mr. McMahon speak because there were no other calls coming in. But I'm gonna
Try to
set up
balance.
a nominal rule that says 30 seconds, and so
Hi,
all the
good
people
morning.
wanting to call, try and call, and we'll try and cycle through the calls. Caller, go ahead.
Good morning, Johnson. Good morning to Azard and
Good
Candisie.
morning.
Good morning.
The Commonwealth, it reminds me of something what the French, what the coin Francophone did to the former colonies in West Africa. Here is it. They would have given the West African countries grants or loans, rather. But all of the monies would still come back to France. The central bank is the French central bank. And so here we have the Commonwealth in that aspect, but the former colonies, the former colonial powers did the same thing in one way or the other. Here you have the Francophone countries that still used to garner all the monies from, and it happens to this day. I've heard the Italian parliamentarians spoke about it, the way the French, how the French operate in the Francophone countries. And it was 15 West African countries, mainly West African countries, that they still have collecting money. And
Yes.
when the countries want a loan, they still have to borrow it at a certain interest rate.
Yeah, I was very
So-
surprised when I saw that. I saw that Italian
Yes. No,
parliamentarian.
that is a part of the discussion to see that, yes, okay, they're going to say you're independent and they're going to still want to have all these ties with you and still garnering your resources. Thanks for listening. Let's start I'll bring that to the fore.
Okay, guys.
Thank you
let's,
so much.
yeah,
Yes.
let's take a quick break. Yeah, that was due at 8:30. So. Okay.
Different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
The climate change crisis is already making millions of people sick and jeopardizing lives. But for us in the Caribbean, young people are among the most vulnerable. Our future is at risk. Taking action now can lead to huge health benefits. The I Deserve a Better Climate for My Health campaign will spotlight real issues from real young people in the Caribbean and give youths a platform to contribute to the solutions for climate change and health. You are not too young to inspire climate and health action.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
This is your boy, Super Handy Andy, with your Super Handy Andy deals at Horses Building Center for the month of May. George Foreman Grill was $206.18, now only $154.63. Sharpshooter Stapler Gun was $68.04, now $57.83. Paint and pesticide respirator was $206.18, now only $154.63. 36-inch oscillating 3-speed fan was $516.19. Get it now for $438.76. Smoke alarm was $81.17, now just $68.99. Super handy Andy deals at Horsforth Building Center for the month of May, making home improvement easy.
Okay, so we're gonna go straight back to the phone lines. Why do you guys call during the commercial break?
Hello, good morning.
The excited
Hello, caller.
jam, so you can't curb the excitement.
Caller, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Dumpster.
Good morning. How are you guys? How are you?
One panelists.
Yes.
I'm very disappointed because you all only want to give the callers them only 30 seconds, and you all have Mr. McMahon there. almost on the whole part of the show.
Jamster will explain.
But I think Jamster did.
Jamster
Repeat
explain.
yourself, Jamster.
Yesterday it
tired.
was very educational with people calling in and expressing. Okay, I want to know how come it is that we know that the monarchy it was going to end. Why is it a big hollow about it now? And what are we as a federation going to gain from becoming a republic? What do we have to satisfy our people in this federation of Sinkers and Nevis? What do we have? And that's the question we all need to ask. What do we have to supply the people in the federation?
What are we gaining now that we're not?
At this very moment, because we do not have absolutely nothing.
We don't have what?
We have
COVID
absolutely
was
nothing.
destroy the whole nation. And we in Sinkers are suffering. Some of us is out of work, cannot get no work. And these are the things you all have to look into. Being coming in a republic, you have to have your own things. Like, what about your tourism? What about your agriculture? What about all those things we have in common? We have to ask ourselves what we're going to benefit from becoming a republic.
But
Good morning.
the question is,
Thank you.
what are we benefiting
No,
by
that we're not.
by that we are not a
Is the
republic?
monarchy providing jobs?
Yeah, and further to go with your question, you make it seem we already independent. You're making it seem like we're fighting based on how you line up those things. What do we have? What do we have?
No, but still, excuse me. Even if we got into independence, what we gain from getting into independence? What we gain? What we can say? This is what we get from when we became independent in 1983. What do we have?
So are you saying we have nothing to show for
We
becoming
have
independent?
nothing to show.
We have significant things to show since becoming an independent country.
Name me one, sir.
We, for one, we have our own political. We are able to elect our own prime minister. We elect our own government who carry out our affairs. They're the ones who manage the country. So we have that for ourselves. We have been taking care of ourselves from since
40
independence. I don't know what you're saying that we haven't achieved anything. Who are we depending on right now?
Let's take another call. Caller, go ahead.
Good morning, Jamster.
Oh, hey.
This is quickly becoming Island Tea hosted by Jamster,
No.
Azard, Mr. Mac, and Candisie.
Good morning, Carla. How are you?
Good morning. I don't care what excuse you all want to make to the callers, but you all have to understand that I just called 6620989, and that's how I got through. The 4660989 does not only rings busy when someone else is on the line. So there's no other way that you all will know. These other people are calling it.
Okay,
But anyway, to the topic at hand, I must say that my home island, Dominica, was way ahead of its time when we became a republic at our independence. You know, so I don't know what the framers of Sinkers constitution and the whole, as you became independent, why they did not go straight to being a republic. You know, so that is something that we have to contemplate. Let us look at what's happening in Dominica, what's happening in Trinidad. How are they able to function? Are we saying that Dominica is that much worse off? Trinidad is that much worse off than the other islands that are members of Commonwealth and not a republic? You know, so it is all about what are the differences? Guyana is a republic. Candisie, you can look at that. What is the big difference between the two at the end of the day? What do we have over these other countries? Right. Is there something that you could put your finger on to say that St. Kitts has something over Guyana?
That is the question.
It seems like...
So, I think it's perception. It's from where you're standing.
It seems to me...
At the end of the day, as it was so rightly said in the interview by Mr. Stapleton, a lot of us feel a kind of a way when we have to be paying, you know, the monarchs and so on. So, it just rubs us the wrong way, So it's a little thing, but it's a big thing, and it is something that the education, we have to have that discussion, this education, and so we can towards that referendum like the Prime Minister.
Yes, I think education is needed.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Carla.
It seems to me like we're I'm getting from a lot of people, it's like here you have atrocity victims asking for reasons why they should leave the mental plantation that they've been on for I just don't understand
I'm
it.
still taken aback from the last call who asked.
What have we gained since independence?
I know, I don't understand
I'm
it.
still taken aback by that.
So for instance, look at this. Trinidad discovered oil, but they're already a republic. Guyana discovered oil. They're independent and a republic. What is the difference? They now have control of their own resources. They determine how the country is run. It's self-governed. There's not a monarch at the head of it telling you, well, look, 90% of those profits are mine because I'm the king and I'm in charge.
But also,
so I think for me, and to answer that caller, it's perspective. It's wherever you're standing, that's the view you're going to get.
But also, I don't understand this. I don't understand. People don't seem to put the same weight on knowing that the head of state actually looks like you. I don't understand. I'm not understanding.
And the
I
thing
don't
about
understand it.
I mean, I like the pomp and ceremony that the British do in terms of the coronation and those things. It separates them from other countries like the US and the like.
I think we
do
a pretty good job too.
But is that our? But
that's British.
Yeah, but is that the coronation?
That's theirs.
That is the British. Do we see ourselves when they talk about Queen Elizabeth at the time, or Princess Elizabeth at the time when he had the war, giving the speech over the radio for the first time and stuff like that? Do we see ourselves as those persons as being British as well? Is it that some persons are holding on, hoping to be British?
Feel free to chime in with your Stockholm syndrome.
That just bothers me. I find that very disturbing.
We're from St. and Nevis. We have a whole culture here. We have a whole heritage here that's separate and apart from that in Britain. The realities here in St. and Nevis are different from the realities in England.
It's like, take for example, Element has this song, Good Enough, what's it name? Good Enough for Me, right?
Yeah.
And there's a line in that song which I cringe every time I hear it.
Which is
Small wonder we're the mother colony. I'm like, really? You be boasting about that now?
What small wonder?
Small wonder we're the mother colony. Singing
I probably sing the wrong words at that point because
morning,
I've never really heard that that part.
So every time I hear that, I'm like, what?
But let's look at that survey. Remember that survey we were discussing?
Yes, let's do that.
And I think
quick.
that's interesting. Somebody named Baba Dr. Oba Tishaka. He posted on Twitter, question, which type of colonization must be broken first to free our people and why? 1, mental, 2, spiritual, 3, economic, 4, political, 5, educational, 6, cultural, 7, other.
I think it's 1, mental.
Yeah, me too. That's
because we
what
have broken the political, basic educational, the cultural, but we
have not broken educational. So definitely for me it would be mental and educational because I agree, and I always push education.
No, choose
and it's
one.
not even
choose
like
one.
Choose
one.
one.
I'm calling it mental education.
But you also have to choose the one that you think is most likely to be a gateway to
what do you classify educational as
to overcoming the other problems.
I see educational as knowing yourself, knowing
but isn't
your
that
history,
part of mental?
knowing where you want to go.
Not
so
really.
that's why I said I'm putting the two together.
You have
I'm
a lot
cheating,
of educated
right?
fools.
Yes, I'm cheating.
And
I want to call
Stockholm
it
syndrome
educational because
victims.
When you think about mental, you're not thinking about your state of mind.
Right.
You're not thinking about who you are.
But if you're thinking about that and you're not fully educated on what it is that you're aiming towards, where you've come from, what you're fighting against, are you truly conquering it mentally? Like for instance, the quote I gave this morning,
I say is mental.
where I said, everything that you are is enough. If you've not gotten to that point where you think that you are good enough to be a republic, you are good enough to stand against whatever foe, you are good enough to accomplish whatever you want in life, then basically you're missing that mental educational bind or connectivity where you can break out of whatever.
You know, most of the answers are mental, but there's one person who put an other and they put fear, and I kind of
fear.
thought.
And I understand fear. I did see the one where it says fear, and I understand it because it's the feeling of uncertainty. Like, okay, like what the guy that called said. Oh, we have a call. We lost it. Yeah. Like the guy that called said, what have we gained and what are we going to gain? To me, that is like fear. Is because it's the fear of the unknown. Like, you don't know what you're getting into. It's like starting out a new relationship or a business venture or a new job. Whoa. It's fear.
Hey, Twitter, I tell you, Twitter is the bomb sometimes. Here's one of the answers. Person says, mental. The greatest weapon in the hand of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. That's a quote from Steve Biko that person used. Caller, go right ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to share a view on the public business.
Sure, go ahead.
My question would be like, what has been coming out of public change for man? You know? I mean, it's a good idea. Not to say, well, you own your own thing, you know? But if they're in the reality, you're deceiving yourself. Right? Now, today, the world set up in a way that is the big money people run things, right? So even though we move away from the British monarchy, which is a good thing to do, you know, don't get it twisted, eh?
Yeah.
It's a good thing for we as African people to do. I'm saying, but look at it. We're going to move away from them and be controlled by the big money people. Because we push a thing called the economy, and the growth and the size of the economy. Right? So we concern with all of these things. So we still ain't going to be free to control nothing.
So right? We can't get our own big money?
Eh?
You don't think that we're capable of getting our own big money in your, words and
what
have
I'm
a
saying,
voice?
Right? As we move away from the British monarchy, right, to chart our own course, our policies that governments would set would be influenced by the big money people, because we look to these big money people for help, right? Okay, so for example, why is it we can't do anything about the monkey that we have here, even though they're destroying with food? It's because we make treaties or covenants with these big money people, right? Big money people who want everything then, the things them our government will have to go and make arrangement to get. So they're still controlling everything. Like the World Economic Forum, right? That's the policies, nobody votes for them or anything like that. But around the world, right? So even though we move away from monarchy, we ain't changing nothing, What we got to change, right? And what we got power to change is the mind. See? And we need to stop think of life, look into life in this way in which they want us to look into it. In the condition us or the educate us to look into life in this way, which means we just looking out ourselves so that they can manipulate us continually.
Okay, call.
We have to look within,
Okay, yeah, we have to wrap. We have our weekly dose coming up next. You don't want to miss the doctor, do you? Okay.
Thank you so much for your call. I was
Thank
just
you for your call,
I wanted to
your
ask him
contribution.
what he considers big money people, and if we can't ever be classified as big money people.
Yeah, he hung up. Okay, let's
we
take
have
the
our
break.
own economy.
We have weekly dose coming up next. It's actually
it's 1 minute
yeah,
too.
Here we go.
Yeah. Let's have.
So let's do this.
Yeah.
Found the sound 98.9.
You think you could pull up next to me in any Nissan, Mazda, or Toyota? Boy, please, I need a handyman.
Give your car some TLC with CNC Auto Services Limited, located on the Bay Road by Steer. We're your local agents for genuine Honda parts. Plus, we've got some sweet deals happening right now on suspension and brake parts, ignition coils, coolants, oils, and filters with tires priced at $188. We've also got car batteries at the crazy low price of $345. So don't wait until your car is in dire need. Stop at CNC Auto Services on Honda today. Telephone 465-9317. For some speedy service and some unbeatable prices, your ride will thank you.
Say check out how we rolling, rolling, rolling. Say check out how we rolling. Say check out how we rolling, rolling, rolling. She said she want a man. I want the
Music's finest artists converge in Bastille from June 22nd to June 24th for the 25th hosting of the St. Kitts Music Festival. Hitting the festival main stage will be Skillibeng, Chronix, Coffee, Byron Messiah, Anthony B, Governor, Romaine Virgo, TJ, Valiant. Them boy don't got nobody. Grandmasters, Collision Band, Small X Band, New Vibes Band International, Mr. Bagdal, Akayu Sweet, Preedy, Guess the Band, Ricardo Drew, Patrice Roberts, Skinny Fabulous, Nyla Blackman, Status. Erica Edwards, 313 Family, Gramps Morgan, Nitra B, Ear Supply, Dexter Daps, and Burner Boy. It's the 25th edition of the St. Kitts Music Festival from June 22nd to June 24th at Warner Park. An experience like no other. Tickets are now available at stkittsmusicfestival.com.
Better music, better talk, better radio.
I'm listening, honey. I am listening.
98.9 Win FM.
So when it's after 9 o'clock, it's time for your weekly dose with Dr. Natalie Osborne. I'm doing like Azard. I'd say daily dose.
Maybe we need it daily.
Maybe.
Listen, we were just telling the doctor how hot it is, and it's not helping us.
Yeah.
Good morning, Doc. How are you?
Good morning, everyone. I'm doing pretty good. Keep pushing forward.
I hope you guys can see her. She looks lovely today.
Oh.
Might be biased because I like the color.
Thank you. Thank you. Purple.
Man, doesn't she always, though?
This is true. Yeah. This is very
As
true.
that, I think our colors kind of combine.
So y'all gonna send me the memo? What's
Yes.
happening here?
We went and be all blue today.
But it's close enough.
Right?
Same family.
I'm hopping on it.
Yes.
I was told that blue and purple are royal colors.
Oh, well.
Oh, yes.
Here we go.
Yes.
Jamster, you see it happening again, right? No monarchy today. Today we're discussing. Go right ahead, Doc.
Surgical wound infections. Okay, so that's why we're here today. It's something that happens quite frequently. So we've been seeing it in our post-op cases, and we're going to be talking about it so that our audience would be aware of some of the things that happen. We know that in the United States, over 110,000 persons develop post-op wound infection. It affects about 0.5 to 3% of all post-op surgical cases. And in some cases, they're increasing mortality, meaning that a patient can die as a result of post-op wound infection. And also you have lost wages because of the time that you're out, increased expenses for yourself and the family and for the institution as well too, in terms of the health care. So we're going to talk a little bit about, yes, it spills over into everything, yes.
Wow. So tell us, Doc, what is a surgical wound?
Well, a surgical wound, we know that it's any wound that is done by the surgeon for any type of procedure using a scalpel. So you first make a wound to get access to some part of the body. All right, so you have that wound. And then what happens after that? You can develop an infection.
Wow. So tell us, what is the infection occurrence like?
Okay, usually for it to be classified as a surgical wound infection, it usually has to occur within the first 30 days after the procedure. So you have that. After the procedure, you have a positive 30 days to consider it a surgical wound infection.
And what would be the main reasons for this, though?
Well, there are many reasons for these surgical wounds, but it usually has to do with some of bacteria or germs that get access to the wound. We know that everybody's body has what we call normal flora or bacteria on top of it. So that is from the person itself, that person can get an infection from the normal bacteria that are on their body, on their skin, and that can get inside of the wound, multiply, and then create havoc. Also, it can come from externally. Anything in the environment, even the staff who is working with that patient in the transoperatory period or the period during the surgery, the instrumentations, lots of different things. And even in the environment, you can have that. So it usually starts with a bacteria getting into the wound.
Wow. And what are some of the risk factors, though?
So yes, there are lots of risk factors that we have to keep in mind as individuals, because there are persons who have surgery and they say, but doc, almost every time I have a surgery, I get a wound infection, or it is more prevalent in certain persons. So some of the main risk factors are persons who've had medical diseases, any medical condition. They can be patients who are diabetic, patients who are elderly, tend to have a weaker immune system, patients who have been diagnosed with cancer, who are using chemotherapy, radiation therapy. Very common, persons who are obese. We keep speaking about obesity. Persons who have diabetes, that is one of the main risk of developing a post-op wound infection. Persons who have anemia, where the blood count is low, they're at increased risk. And if you're a smoker, you have an increased wound that delays the wound healing and can cause a wound infection. So anyone who with any sort of different type of cancer or where their immune system is weakened, they're at increased risk of developing a wound infection.
Wow. And you know, you're listing it, and I'm running through it in my head, and I'm thinking, oh my God, but it makes so much sense.
Yes.
Because you already have a weakened immune system from chemotherapy and radiation, and you know, as a diabetic, you get a little cut, kind of, so it makes perfect sense. And I really hope that our listeners, because like for me, like I screenshot and I make little notes just to keep it at the back of my head. I hope everyone is listening. But what are some of the symptoms of a surgical wound infection?
Well, usually you're going to see that the wound is becoming red looking. There is some swelling there. You may start to see some drainage from it. You touch it, it's a little bit warm. So sometimes the patient themselves may point that out after they would have had a surgery, or it was a day procedure and they went home a couple of days after. They start seeing changes in the wound. So it gets a bit warm. It is looking red. When you touch it, it's a little bit painful. Even sometimes you start to see some oozing coming from the wound itself. Yeah. Yes, and sometimes persons panic, and then you may see pus, you may see something that smells foul, you start to see a drain that smells foul, and the person may eventually have fever as well. Right. You say, doc, I'm having some fevers, and that would draw the attention to the wound and me.
So how are these wounds, these surgical wound infections diagnosed?
Well, it's usually a clinical diagnosis. Okay. Once you've got a wound there and you start having these symptoms, as we spoke about, you look at the wound, you inspect it, there's some ooze in there, it may be red, it's warm, it is very tender, there's some foul drainage, and clinically you can diagnose it there. If there's some instances where you're unsure of that is an infection, or because sometimes a person might be a little bit more obese, the infection is much more deeper in the tissues, and ultrasound may also assist you, and they make sure that there was a collection of pus there.
So how you said that, because I was thinking, like, what if I have the wound on my back and I can't see the first things you described, right? So, okay, I have a fever, but I can't see all the other things like the pus and the red swelling, then I definitely should be able to at least have an ultrasound. So I'm glad there's another option.
But then your doctor, even though you can't see the back, your doctor or your nurse would be able to see that and help make it the diagnosis as well too.
But if you have it in the back, I think
but you can get a fever.
You feel the
know.
pain.
Yeah, but then you also know you have a fever, right?
So, but that really just tells you it's mostly clinical. You can get any an ultrasound to assist, but mostly you would know that there's some changes to the wound.
Okay, quick off course, but not really off course question.
Go ahead.
About the pulse.
So I guess it's safe to assume that the infection rate for those minimally invasive things, where I know it's like a puncture wound rather than, I guess the infection rate for those is probably nearly nil, I would imagine.
Okay, well, there's a question being asked here. that what about minimally invasive procedures like what we call laparoscopic procedures,
Yes, I was trying to
where you
remember the
have
name.
all these small holes or ports? That is a very important point because the size of the wound also may be a risk factor for you developing a wound infection. And these smaller ports, they're less likely to become infected. Yes.
Wow.
So the location of the wound as well too would be a risk factor why you would develop an infection. And also, I did not mention, if the surgery is an emergency surgery, it has an increased risk of it develop in an infection versus if it is an elective or planned surgery. So you would have had time to repair, time to address certain nutritional factors, time to try and control the blood sugars in the patients and all the different factors. But if it's an emergency-like
Right.
situation, you would not have all of these conditions that favor, and you can have an increased risk of.
So that's like maybe like a
infection.
battlefield,
excellent,
like
yeah.
a battlefield medic maybe doing something
Yes.
because someone got okay.
Why did I just get images of the Civil War? How are surgical wound infections treated, Doc?
What Civil War doing in your mind?
No, I said battlefield. I just went straight to American Civil War.
Well, of course, now you have your wound, okay, or you have your infection of the wound. You have to treat it. Oftentimes, we have to open the wound again, let the pus or whatever inside it that drains out. You do your regular daily wound care because at that point it's going to be important to change the bandage regularly, keep it clean, and you want to give some antibiotics. Usually these things recover, but there are some hiccups along the way. Persons may have extended sick leave and things like that, but the outcome is usually good. But there's some rare cases where you may have complications.
We talked about the treatment, but what about the prevention?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask a question. Oh, I thought someone else was about to ask a question. Oh, how do you prevent it? That's a very good question. Anytime you're planning a surgery, you want to think of several different things. Before the surgery, which is pre-op, that pre-operative period before your surgery, you have your operative or transoperative period, that's during the surgery, and then you have your post-operative period or after the surgery. So you want to try and prevent all these factors because all of these come together, whether it is local to the patient or it is environmental. So before your surgery, we spoke about the risk factors. If the person has high blood sugar, you want to make sure take their medication, encourage them to, and decrease the blood sugar. So those are controlled before the surgery. If the patient has anemia, you want to increase their blood hemoglobin. Even if you have to give a transfusion, you encourage them to take iron supplements months before they undergo their procedure. If they're smokers, you want to discourage them from smoking before they undergo their procedures, things like that. Those things you can control before the surgery. You can do that. Before you go into the operating room, you want to take a good bath before, wash yourself down good, so that you can decrease the amount of bacteria on your skin. We know that bacteria live on our skin normally.
Yes.
And but you can decrease the amount. That is called the normal skin flora, but you can decrease the amount because most of the infection comes from the contamination of the skin. So those are some of the pre. But now you're in surgery. That is not mostly on you. Now it's on the surgical staff. They have to make sure they're gowned properly, they're gloved correctly, their hairs are covered, they adhere to all of the operative rules and regulations. Okay, you have to make sure everything in the operating room is sterile, the instruments and the room is kept at a good temperature that is normally cool. And you want to ensure that there's decontamination from one case to the next, so you decrease the risk of having a wound infection. The length of the surgical procedure, the time, because it's not the same a procedure that is for 20 minutes or a procedure for more than 2 hours.
Right.
Usually procedures for a longer period increase the risk of you having a wound infection. And now you have the things after surgery. That's now you're after surgery. You have to be very careful. Do not go touching your wound with your hands that are not sterile or clean. When the nurse is doing the dressing, she uses sterile gloves. She uses sterile conditions to keep that wound clean, because the next 24 to 48 hours, that wound is still open in a sense, and you want to make sure that no bacteria gets in there.
Right, so it's critical.
So those times are critical.
Wow. And so, like, my mind is racing as usual. Would that have anything to do with the length of time you keep the patient in the hospital after surgery? So it depends on what surgery they've had,
Yes.
and then to do post-operative care. So you keep them in there a certain length of time depending on the size of the wound.
Usually, the length of stay post surgery depends on the type of procedure they have. Because some procedures are considered to be minor, some are major, and then the recovery of the patient, the underlying factors which we spoke about. And so, you want to ensure that the wound is being dressed and cared for daily. And once you're comfortable enough that the wound looks healthy, then you may want to discharge your patient. But remember, we also said that you have from the time of surgery about 30 days.
Right.
So post-op in your follow-up, that's why you encourage your patients to follow up with you. You keep looking at the wound. They can follow up at the health center so that if there is any signs of change or changes at the wound site, they can come in and be treated.
Right.
Do you guys cover the sutures with like some kind of sanitary tape? So
yes, of course.
I've
usually,
seen cases where you just see the sutures and there's nothing on it. So.
That's probably long after.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Immediately, usually the post-op 48 to 72 hours, you would usually want to keep that wound sealed from the environment so there's no contaminants getting close to the wound. And usually when there's something called, it's a big word, epithelialization, where the wound is already sealed from the external factors, you can leave the wound open. So you'll see us tell patients a couple days after, no, you don't need any more dressing on your thing, and you can take a full shower. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's actually the first time I saw Dr. Osborne was when I had a surgery, and they were doing rounds.
Yeah.
And I was like, when can I get out of here, type of thing, right? But I think for and as you're saying this, I'm wondering how difficult is it once you've done a surgery on children, because they're curious, and now there's this new thing on their body, and they want to touch and they want to see. And what is it like with children and their wounds?
No, well, usually there's not usually a major problem. Once the wound is covered with the child, they don't want you to touch it because they're trying to at all costs avoid pain. So usually they're not going to want you to, even as a doctor, you have difficulty to get to review it. The kids do not want you to go near it at all.
Wow. Because I'm thinking
you're quiet over there.
They would probably be the ones that would most likely, poke and prod and investigate.
Yeah, I'm saving my voice. I just
Why?
Because I'm here battling with this cold and it's not the best. So I'm listening to your conversation.
But that's another point. If Azard was to have a surgical procedure this week and he has a flu, that's another reason you may want to postpone the surgical intervention, because that would increase his risk of increase his
close to me, so I'm just like.
So I don't know if we have any questions or anybody.
Right, but it makes perfect sense. Yes. And I would want to think that if the person has hypertension, one of the preoperative conditions would be relax, no stress, which is kind of like, saying don't cry after I've hit you type of thing.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to go have a surgery. You kind of want to maintain a level blood pressure.
Yes.
And if you're diabetic, maintain a low blood sugar.
Yes. All those are factors that overall, and in that instant with the high blood pressure, it's not just your wound, but in your overall condition and monitoring the patient during the procedure, the surgical procedure. You want to ensure that your patient is calm, have a good night rest before the procedure. Sometimes we even may encourage using some sedatives so you get a good night rest. Because the level of anxiety once you're undergoing a surgical procedure is naturally going to be high.
Yeah, a lot of people are afraid. A lot of persons think that it might be their last.
and I think it's also speaks a lot for you, like mentally, to be in a good place if you're gonna have a surgical procedure. Because I remember, so I had a procedure for hernia, right? And the night before, I could not sleep. I was just panicking. And I remember the morning, the nurse is trying to tell me, like, okay, calm down. And we're friends still now because she was so instrumental in calming me down and helping me just But as soon as I got to theater, right?
So she was good.
She was good, right? But as soon as she left me, I'm lying there, and it's like,
went right back up.
And then I saw Dr. Wilkinson, so he came in, and we had a little chat. Then I see some students come behind him. I'm like, where all these people going? Because I know I'm naked underneath this thing, right? Like, where are all these people going? What's going to happen when I shut my eyes?
No, but I want, because I don't want our public to think that we're just exposing the patients at all.
It was very
patients' privacy and stuff that is always maintained at highest level and stuff.
And he explained it. Yeah, he did. He said, these are some students. I just want them to see the procedure and just see how it is. And this is me in my head. Oh my God, all these people are gonna see me naked. but doctors don't see it that way.
No, but once you're draped, you're only gonna see the small area that is the surgical site. So we don't have the patient. The patient's pudor and everything. We respect that.
Let me tell you, the anesthesiologist was also very instrumental in calming me down. And then he started talking about sometime he visited Guyana, and the next thing I knew, I was out. I say all that to say mental stability and just de-stressing and relaxing. It has a lot to do with the procedure before the preoperative, procedure. Because I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but that plays a big role. I have a friend that's about to go have surgery, and every day I give her a lecture because she's diabetic.
Oh, man.
So every day I give her a lecture.
But you don't want to add to her anxiety.
No,
also.
she breaks the rules all the time.
Okay.
She breaks the rules. Yeah, she needs the lecture.
Another slightly off-topic question.
Oh, gosh.
It's related, but I guess. In terms of post-op and people maybe not, let's say if you're ambulatory, right?
Mm-hmm.
What guidelines you give to people so that they don't maybe pop their sutures and stuff like that, like things you can't do?
Oh, okay. Things
I would think don't lift heavy things.
Well, he's talking, I think, more immediately, right? Soon after. There's certain things that the nurses and the doctors will tell the patient how to get themselves up off of the bed by putting as little pressure on the abdominal wound. So you want to hold your tummy before you cough, to add a little extra support. When you're getting up, sometimes you turn on your side, so you take a lot of the pressure, because anytime you're sitting upwards, you increase the pressure that is inside your tummy. So you want to roll to the side and ease yourself up, and you make slow movements. And little by little, you get first you want to then get up from the bed, sit down for a while, and then little you get up and you start making steps. So everything is baby steps at first. And always, what is going to tell you how much you can do is always the level of pain. That's a great indicator. Right. So you know what I cannot and can do based on the amount of pain that would result.
Yeah.
Wow. Because I remember being so scared to cough or laugh. Like I'd say, don't come around me and say anything funny. I don't want to pop these. It's not that delicate, but I'm just so nervous in my head. Like, don't say anything funny, please. And you feel a cough coming on and you kind of swallow the cough. You know how hard it is to swallow a cough.
and then you have the clown friends who,
course.
they don't feel good unless they try to make you laugh.
I know, and I like to laugh, so it's always an issue.
They're such terrible friends, aren't they?
But I know that you may be a little bit uncomfortable when you cough, but coughing is important to the post-op because what that does help to expand the lungs and making sure that oxygen is getting in. And you want to be able to deep breathe. That is why we tell our patients also to deep breathe, because oftentimes to avoid the pain, the patient would take shallow breaths. Because they think if they deep breathe, they're going to feel more pain, which but you want to encourage that, or else you could have further respiratory complications. So that's why you want to encourage them to
such a
cough.
Wonderful thing.
Yes.
Interesting.
And to deep breathe.
Wow. Like a patient going through that would be like, I don't even want to move or bathe, especially if the wound is on the body that you have to bathe.
Gosh.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm here listening to you, and I'm thinking, thank God I've never had to go through any surgeries.
Let's knock on wood.
But this is not about scaring you. It is about educating. So once you have to, at any point, you're well informed.
Yes, I know you're informing us and educating us, but at the same time, I'm saying I am thankful that I have not had to go through that experience.
But it's different, because when I'm listening to the doctor put it forward, I'm thinking, man, this must be so amazing for you to go through, because you're actually cutting into a human body and then repairing it and then putting it back, and the person is going to function like nothing happened. I think that's amazing. So kudos to you. I don't think I could do it. Like, even when I wanted to go into medicine, it was not that. Like, I can't stand up there, look at you and cut you. I cannot.
Do we have
We should get
laparoscopy? Do we do laparoscopy here or?
At this current moment, no, we don't, and we need to get back into that. But that's going to require quite a bit of resources,
Right.
equipment, and stuff. But we do. We've done it several times because Dr. Cameron Wilkinson did it quite a bit. I assisted him in years past, but it's a lot of things will require training for it as well. Our surgeon, I'm not trained in laparoscopic procedure, that I'll definitely need to do. And then we need the equipment and some of the resources to do that. Yes, because if we can do a lot more laparoscopic procedure, of course, recovery time is much better.
Right.
The hospital stay is much less.
And chances of wound infection
Yes,
is probably less as
decrease.
well.
So overall, it would benefit the us as a nation, as a community, but also we have to know that that would increase the cost as well.
True.
Too. The surgical cost for the procedure as well, because when you get certain benefits in one end, you have to pay a little bit more for that, because these equipment are super expensive.
Wow, I can only imagine. But it makes perfect sense, though. It makes perfect sense because the equipment alone is so high tech.
Yes.
Okay, it's 9:26. We could squeeze in a call before we wrap up. We have about 4 minutes. So anyone wants a call, 466-762-662-0989. Give us a call for Dr. Osborne on the weekly dose. In the meantime, you can continue.
Oh, perfect. I wanted you to just tell the audience what laparoscopy really is. I don't think they might know.
What laparoscopy? Okay. Well, that is, as we've often heard people say, minimally invasive, where you use small ports created on the body. Sometimes you have multiple ports, depending on what procedure you're going to do. And also, in fact, you infiltrate gases in the abdomen, and so that the abdomen can expand and you can visualize the different organs there. And you're working from outside, looking at a camera, and you're doing multiple procedures there, using the camera to guide you. Okay, because you have to put a camera inside the tummy as well. You use some of your other ports are opening to put different instruments, and you're reaching, you're grabbing, you're cutting. Yeah, it's actually very amazing and beautiful.
Wow. It would be good if we could get that, but the price.
And then we need the training too. We need the staff that are trained, because in a small community like this, oftentimes the surgeon is working alone with the nurses. And when you're in a big institution, you're working with the entire team. You have residents, you have chief surgeons, you have senior residents, different levels. So you have a whole medical team. Oftentimes, it's just the doctor and the nurse on the other side to assist. So we needed team support as well too. And the nurses would have to be trained in such. We need technicians who can take care of the equipment, maintain the equipment. So it's quite a lot.
That sounds intense. But back to the surgical wound infection. Do we have any figures for St. Kitts?
No, in terms of a direct figure, I don't have any stats, because that would take quite a lot. You know, I often like to come with my data and have all my stats there, but it's quite a lot. I would have to do that in the future to get some data, and that is difficult. Remember, we said up to the first 30 days. So if you see the patient, and sometimes you see the patient, you follow up with them once or twice, but later on they may develop a wound infection. Sometimes they don't, and it will come back to you.
That's what I was going to say.
You're not sure, so it would be hard to be able to get complete statistics on some of these as well. Too.
Right, I was going to say that maybe some of them don't come back because it might not be necessarily an infection, or they might think, it's going to go away, and so they don't come back and report it.
Or they're seen by someone in the health center. It is managed by a different physician, not the surgeon who would have first seen that person. So sometimes that information is difficult to get. But if we have an immediate post-op or post-operative wound infection and the person is still hospitalized, that becomes part of our statistics.
Okay, makes perfect sense. Wow, thank you. That makes perfect sense, because if they don't come back to report it, then, how can I actually keep track of it?
Yeah, how can we
Yeah.
keep track of it?
So that was our edition this morning of the weekly dose.
Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you so much for coming.
Azad, I'm sorry if you felt scared about anything that I would have said.
What he should be scared of is this cold. He better make sure it's just a cold.
She's making me laugh. It's a good thing I don't have any stitches.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming in today, Doc.
Thank you for having me always. It's always a
Awesome.
pleasure to laugh with you guys.
Have an awesome day.
You too.
Okay. Okay, 9:30. That's the end of today's edition of Weekly Dose. Join us next Tuesday for another edition.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Magnum new labor charge up, and it means that the vibes good just like you.
A your name a call up, can't you see that the hot girl just passed through?
Selector just pile up, can't you see that the new look just make news?
I saw step forward, no. What you gonna do?
Magnum tonic wine. Brand new look.
Same good wine.
Must be 18 or older to drink. Drink responsibly. Magnum.
Pump it up with Quicks. One pump and you're pumping. Dishes done, you're smiling. Pump it up with Quicks. Keep pumping. Pump it up some more. Pump it up. Grease is gone for sure. Pump it up. All your dishes fixed. Pump it up with Quicks. I don't want a dirty sink. Keep pumping up with Quicks now. Clean that sink. Pump it up some more. Pump it up. Grease is gone for sure. Pump it up. All your dishes fixed.
And we're back. We were supposed to have a segment with the Red Cross, but they were actually on yesterday, and there was some kind of mix-up. So
They were lost.
yeah,
You wouldn't want to know what that mix-up
yeah,
was.
let's not.
Yeah.
Let's not rehash that.
Good grief. Oh my goodness.
So we have a little time to chit-chat.
Let's talk about the article with the Saharan dust.
Well,
What
here it
madness
says
is
that
that
the
now?
Caribbean. Can.
No, not this one. That's the one I did this morning.
Oh,
I
you did
opened
the,
with that.
you did
yeah.
the one with the heat already?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's really hot.
It really is.
Oh, there's some with the Saharan dust.
Yeah, they said something about Saharan dust is making its way here. Not really sure why it's not welcome. Saharan dust creeping
Oh yes.
into the Caribbean.
It says as if the heat being experienced in the Caribbean isn't enough to deal with, the Saharan dust continues to be a burden for those who suffer from allergies and ailments.
Ugh.
The Antigua and Barbuda Met Service on May 8th said air quality is down to moderate levels. This is due to the particulate matters 2.5 and 10 associated with the fresh surge of Saharan dust. An air quality alert too has been issued up to Thursday. Oh, it is okay. It noted the threat of health problems is elevated for mainly unusually sensitive people with asthmatic or could potentially cause them limited health impact.
It makes perfect
So I guess
sense.
maybe we could go back. Person could probably go back to the mask for a little while.
I am
So the air quality
terribly
isn't
asthmatic.
good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why that article jumped out at me. I was like,
But
here
here's
we go
another
again.
one. Here's another related article. I read it this morning, and I must say, well, let me read it.
Let's hear. Yeah.
Excessive heat expected in Caribbean, especially in August and September. It's
Right.
going to be a hot summer in the Caribbean,
That's
even
what I
during
read.
even during the rainy season. Well, I did the
Even
thing I
during the
liked.
rainy season?
The thing I liked was that they said that the rainfall was going to be basically back to normal. So the Barbados-based Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum, in its heat outlook for April to September 2023, states excessive heat can be expected, especially in August and September.
Mhm.
So how hot will the next 3 to 6 months be? The heat outlook states April to June, marking the first part of the Caribbean heat season, should not be hotter than usual. Really? Intense nighttime and daytime heat is expected in much of the Caribbean from July to September, making the peak of the heat season. As a result of this, greater frequency of mild heat symptoms due to excessive heat can affect one's health, particularly towards August and September. And I was looking for the bit where it seems as though they updated it. They
did.
because they had something about the rainfall. It was saying that even though it's going to be hotter, the rainfall is going to be back to normal levels for at least for the upcoming.
You're talking about the heat and excessive heat, and all I'm thinking is, there goes my electricity bill, because the fans and the AC and everything. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, last evening was hot.
Because
Wasn't it?
the article I
Yeah, it
saw,
really was.
they also had they also spoke to the St. Martin meteorological
Yes,
service.
I think
you
that
saw
was the
that?
one that
yeah.
I was reading. Yeah,
yeah.
it
I
did
see
refer
that one. Yeah, I remember.
to that. Oh,
Yeah.
good luck, guys. Like, even to get dressed, I stand in front of a fan with my AC on.
yeah. I remember that. I remember there was this apartment I used to live in my bachelor days, that when I was dressing, I had to turn the fan on because it's like it was almost like after you come out of the shower, and by the time you're dressed, you have to go back to the shower.
Even taking a cold shower doesn't
Yeah.
even help. And I'm glad you said shower, because I would like to reach out to the water department to ask them if it's possible to send out notices when they're going to take the water. So I saw this weekend that they put up a notice for Southeast Peninsula that they were going to have difficulty with water supply. I do not live in the Southeast Peninsula. Sunday morning in the middle of cooking.
You realize
water.
what's going on there, right?
Yesterday, no water again. My thing is, I understand if you have to take the water for whatever reason, because when they weren't here, we kind of drill them. But geez, is it that hard to give us a notice?
It really irks me that they think that people in certain areas are somehow more important than others.
Well, I would love to be optimistic and think that it's not that.
Where well, I mean, hey, I think it's reasonable for us to assume that, because why would you put out a notice for those people, but you're not going to tell regular quote unquote, because everybody's regular people as far as I'm concerned.
My sister was so convinced that we had a burst in the main. She went into the yard to start to look to see if, and I was like, girl, no, it's everybody. And she was still not convinced. So I had to go to the neighbors and say, do you have water? And then my neighbor is telling her, no, we all lost water at the same time. She was like, is it because I didn't pay the bill? I'm like, girl.
I mean, it's like I used to say, I mean, Azard, you can relate to this. It's like I always say, how is it during silly season? You know how they would have political meetings and they'll go down Market Street and make a lot of noise. I mean, people live around.
Yeah.
People maybe want to watch TV or want to study, and you make all this noise with your meetings. How come you don't go Frigate Bay and Burdock to do that?
Well, I don't live in that area, so I don't know.
So
but
it's the
do we
same
have evidence that they don't go in that area and
No,
make
they
noise?
don't.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
don't.
gosh.
They do not have public meetings or rallies in those areas. So it's the same way. Everybody's complaining about water.
But that's crazy because people in Frigate Bay have to vote too. So you would think they would go have meetings there.
Well, no, they started that. But,
Oh,
my point is to the water
notice,
problem.
right?
Yes, they thought it was okay to do a notice for them. But how come there's no notice for Central Bastille or anywhere for that matter?
I was really annoyed with that. And it was around the same time on Sunday and the same time yesterday. And the only reason I knew that they took it yesterday is because I was home ill. So I'm thinking now, well, is this a daily occurrence? And I just don't know because I'm out at work.
But my water goes off every night.
Yes.
I know
mine does too.
sometimes on
and
Wednesdays.
sometimes it goes earlier than others because usually they take it like about 9:30, 10.
Yeah.
So I try to rush home, grab a shower, and do whatever between that period.
Yeah.
But then I think it was Monday night, was it? No. What day are we? It's Tuesday. So it would have been like Friday night, I think. They took it like about 8 o'clock.
I noticed on you notice some Wednesdays they leave town.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually tell my sister, oh gosh, the guy that's supposed to turn off the water probably fell asleep.
Are you already fall asleep
'Cause
on
I
Wednesdays?
think, I don't know, because they did say that somebody has to go put it on once it's. So I'm like, I went outside like Sunday and I see a water truck passing, right? Well, it's labeled water. I'm like, oh, I should call him to ask him why he didn't tell us he was gonna take the water.
But I remember I wanted to ask him, but I think at the time I thought, okay, I could leave that for another time. But I wanted to ask if that isn't something they can automate, meaning
ask him, I think.
I think they said that they're not there as yet. Well, I was at a Rotary meeting where there was a water engineer there, and we actually asked him that if they can't do it from inside, and I don't think they're quite ready to do that.
I would imagine something like that might be expensive because it would probably be some kind of radio control thing.
Maybe. But for me, it would be better if they put us on a schedule because at least that way you could plan. You would know okay, every night at 9:30 I need to fill all my jugs, all my kettles, take my shower and everything because water is going to go at 9:30. But it's the fluctuation and the no notice that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Guyana, not to go off topic, but Guyana is going to invest billions to drive housing development.
I saw it.
Yeah, I saw that.
I saw that.
I meant to read
I was
that.
like, I'm not even going to read it because it's probably more of the same thing.
And then here I'm seeing that their target seems to be, I'm looking at their target. It seems to date close to 1,000 house lots have been allocated, while another 1,300 have been allocated, which is in keeping with the goal, the government's aim to allocate 50,000 house lots within the first term of office. So Guyana's government is looking to allocate 50,000 house lots.
Can't wait for you to finish before I jump in.
Within the first term of office.
So, they've had several housing drives in Guyana, and they've had different labels for them. So the first one was to give young professionals, then so they started out with like teachers and nurses and whatever. But for me, there's always going to be that scar where they uprooted persons who were supposedly squatting in an area to run a road through the area, and there was like a big protest, and it was just horrible. They wanted to build a road in an area called Mocha, and there were persons living there. But Azard, according to real estate law, that if you're squatting for a certain amount of time,
yes, you have to put in a claim.
Right, it becomes basically your land if you're there for a certain period of time. And they had persons there that had like supermarkets and 2- and 3-story houses. They had pig farms, they had duck farms, and they just had, because of their housing drive and they wanted to build a road drive, they just basically mowed these people and their animals and their houses down. And I just found that whole thing ridiculous. And then the housing drive that they're supposedly doing now is it's geared to specific people again. So yeah, I'm gonna take that with a pinch of salt.
Yes.
What we're doing here in St. Kitts, right? I know that's where you were going with this.
Let me ask a question, Candy. It's not exactly off topic, but I was looking at the picture with the houses, the long line of houses and so on. You guys have poisonous snakes, right?
Very.
So, man, sometimes a lot of times, like sometimes when I go jogging and so, like last night when I went jogging, I remember I was going past a bush, and I saw something rustling black on this side of the street, rustling, right? And then I was thinking, why? If I was living in a country that had poisonous snakes, that could be a snake. It turns out it was a black plastic bag, right?
Oh wow!
Blowing in the wind.
Right.
But when
the good thing is we have mongoose here, and they're known to
that's
keep
true.
snakes at bay.
Yeah.
So I think they had even found one in the village a couple of years back. I guess it came in with
last year.
export. Well, it was last year.
I think it was
came in
last
probably
year.
with export, but they got rid of it. But it's pretty easy for them to become invasive. I know, for instance, in Florida, one of their invasive species, the boa constrictor, because somebody took it in, and then I guess
and the
they just
reticulated
multiplied.
python as well.
Yes.
That's crazy.
But Guyana does have a lot of snakes, and they actually have huge anacondas in the zoo on display. That's one section I never really walked down. But
so I wonder when they clear areas for housing.
Probably.
And so, that's one. I imagine those are things they have to look out for, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But I think they have like a method of decreasing the probability of them being in that area. So like if you're gonna go reclaim land and use it for housing, and it was a cane field, you burn it.
Oh.
So that kind of decreases.
And I guess that gets rid of centipedes too. Not that well, centipedes are the least of your problems
I know.
in a place
if
like
you
Guyana,
have a snake, right?
Centipedes are like our snakes here when you think about it.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think most governments try to leave a good legacy. They try to do what they think the people want, but it's always going to be a situation, again, of perspective, where you're standing from. Because there have been a lot of complaints, and I follow a bunch of people on the internet, on Facebook. Quite a bit of them are public workers, like public speakers, always on a soapbox type of thing. And I have friends who are actually in government in Guyana, and one of the main complaints, and this has always been an issue, is who gets the houses. Here in St. Kitts, we say it's if you're for that party, you get the house. In Guyana, it's race.
Oh my God.
So who's really benefiting from these houses that they're that they're building for the public?
But let me look at that picture again. Here's another thing. Back to the point I was making. No, look, see that? Now, in Guyana, I guess that you can probably do that for a lot longer and not have a problem because it's a much bigger country, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, think of this here, times 2,400. Okay, let's say that might be
I was actually wondering where they were going to put the houses here as well.
This is why I keep saying they're going to have to start using the sky.
or build the type of houses that they're going to put. Because in this picture that you're looking at here, it's a housing scheme in an area called the Region 6 in Guyana. So Guyana is broken up into 10 municipal regions. And Region 6 is an area called Anna Regina. I think some of the houses that they built earlier was in Region 10, which is Linden, and that is a pretty big area. They built some in Amelia's ward, and then they had some built in a Region 4, which is where the capital is, Georgetown. So now I think they're doing it by region, but like you said, Guyana is a lot bigger. It's 83,000 square miles. So when I heard they were going to build 2,400 houses in St. Kitts, and their first 600, I was very curious as to where they were going to build them. I remember Miss Henry called in and she said, you know, maybe they're going to use the townhouse style. But still, where are you getting the land from?
But
and then she alluded that maybe some of this land could be even used for agriculture.
And this is the thing. Nothing wrong with the townhouse style, but 2 stories, 3 stories is not going to cut it with the amount of land we have. When are these people going to get a clue?
But where would they put? I mean, there's a lot of vacant land around, or what we would think is vacant, because we don't know who owns it. You know, we're not into that business. But
I'm saying, I know, Candy, you know, there's going to be people, obviously, people who are going to want their yard and whatever, but you probably need to do some kind of research survey and say who is interested in living in an apartment, and maybe you don't care so much about having a backyard, blah, blah, blah. Because obviously we don't have that much land. Land is at a premium. We're going to have to take advantage of the sky. Let me put it that way.
Maybe we're gonna reclaim some more.
Yeah, and so I'm really hoping. I gotta say it again. I'm really hoping this housing is gonna be a mix of the typical house style with the yard, the bungalow with the yard, and blah blah blah.
It would be
and
pretty
the garage,
interesting to see
the picket fence, whatever, and a mix of townhouses and high rises.
Right,
and
right.
Mid rises.
So
whatever.
I guess maybe based on how much you're willing to pay, you determine whether or not you get a land, a yard, or if you're gonna have a hanging balcony garden.
Exactly, because you can very well have an apartment which has a balcony which is big enough where you can maybe have a little kitchen garden, like to your point, where you have some pots and you're growing your own thyme and tomatoes.
And I'm actually,
whatever.
and you know, when you started saying that, I was actually getting a picture of the way they do buildings in China. And maybe it's because of the whole Chinese connection that's involved in this whole new housing project. But there isn't much space in China, and they have all these different ways of maximizing
They do
the
have
space.
a lot of space, actually.
No, in terms of where they do the way they do their housing.
Where they're doing the housing, okay.
Right? So in terms of the apartments and the townhouses, they make good use of the little space that they have. They have all these inventions where you, like I said, you can do a little balcony garden. Your washing machine can fold up. All kinds of crazy inventions. So it remains to be seen. It would be interesting to see the way it's.
I really hope they're listening because, well, maybe they're listening because this morning, guess what I heard in the news this morning? Was it this morning? Yeah. The Minister of Agriculture is going to be doing consultations with the farmers and the fishermen and stuff.
That is awesome.
In different, so maybe somebody's getting through to them that you have to meet with people. I actually heard I was speaking to someone yesterday, or I was speaking to someone yesterday, and the person actually said that Samuel is not really doing too good right now, so we don't know what. So,
meaning that he was ill, or
no? Meaning his
ratings.
Yeah, he's
rating?
not really. He's not really the most popular person right now in terms of the way he's been handling his portfolios and stuff.
That's unfortunate. Isn't he like the youngest of the lot?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
him and Marsha. It's between him and Marsha, I think. But
no, he's definitely younger than Marsha.
He's younger than Marsha. Okay. So and I didn't say anything when the person said that, but I was like, oh my God, when he said that.
But how many ministries does he have? Because
I've
always been concerned with that. Like, I just felt that it was a lot for a first timer.
I think so too.
And he's probably running ragged and stretching himself thin, because I don't have as much things to do as he does, and this heat alone is making me exhausted.
I have a friend who makes a point that, and when I thought about it, I said, it's really true, that a lot of the ministers have a very heavy load. And if you look at the big countries, do you realize most of the ministries are like one or two?
Yeah.
And the two is usually because they're very close synergies between maybe those two ministries. I mean, take for example in the U.S. they have Health and Human Services. You can see the synergies between
I
those
always
two.
wondered about that, if we weren't piling on too much, especially where first timers are concerned. I shouldn't even say where first timers are concerned. I'm just wondering if it means that a lot is left up to the permanent secretaries, because It's a lot. I think Samal alone has what? Agriculture and fisheries, which is
Sport,
like in of itself is
culture,
huge.
yeah.
Sports, culture, small businesses.
Yeah. And then again,
and I still feel like I'm leaving out
and
something.
then I also feel like the ministry architectures should be, why can't these things be just set, well, not set in stone, but
right,
something that you come and you don't change unless there's maybe really
right, because they kind of
like
always
rampant,
switch them up. Yeah, that's
like
true.
like you only change unless there's rampant dysfunction or whatever. I feel like it's like in the U.S. Health and Human Services. You don't have a president coming and saying, okay, it's going to be health and the EPA together or something.
Right,
You know, it's always health
like
and
for
human
instance,
services.
Marsha has tourism and labor.
Yes.
And that is like,
And
tourism is so intense, especially how we're trying to move into sport tourism and culture tourism. You know, it's like just dealing with tourism alone is a lot.
Yes.
Jeffrey has deputy prime minister. He has education. He has housing. They're human beings just like the rest of us. I just feel like it's, maybe they need to look at expanding and bringing more
people
into so that they can give one person one thing to focus on. And I think it might not only help them, but it will help us, because then that person is zoned in on just one thing and able to focus on that and see the cracks and fill them, right? Because agriculture is a major, major industry. And with agriculture, there's livestock, there's fishery, you know. So that in and of itself is at least 5 branches.
Yeah.
So imagine you trying to deal with that, and you still have to deal with sports.
Exactly.
And you got to show up. You got to make appearances.
I mean, like, what does sport have to do? Is agriculture, right? I mean,
it's
I feel like the ministry should be a portion based on, let's say, adjacency, so to speak. Let me put it that way.
Agreed.
Synergy, adjacency, that type of thing.
Because then it's easier to. Because I think before that, it was youth and culture, or was it youth and sport?
Youth and sports and culture, I think.
Right,
it was before.
and I think that's what John L. had.
That's what John L. had. Yeah.
Right, and it's kind of easier to
I mean,
link those.
Like GATT. I mean, you could say GATT has it good. It's Attorney General and Legal Affairs, Justice and Legal Affairs.
So focus on that.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, either one of those basically covers the other two when you think about it, right? So in a sense, administratively, that's a lot. I think that's a lot easier. And of course, if you have capable technocrats working with you, you don't have to worry. But when you have these wide-ranging portfolios, sub-portfolios,
and that's what I kept saying to the farmers, like, because I even actually spoke to Samal. I was at a meeting because he was doing these town halls with something called Creatives Connect. That again that is also another thing, because he had to make an appearance there and give a speech type of thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of pulled him aside after, and I said, we've been getting a lot of complaints from farmers, agriculture, and he said, yes, I know, I've heard, and I'm gonna meet with them. So I felt encouraged, but then I spoke to the farmers, and one of them is like, adamant that he wants to meet with Samal, and then the other one, he was like, well, we met with the permanent secretary. We met with the permanent secretary. So it's just as good as getting Samal. And I think people feel like if you talk to the permanent secretary, it's not the same as talking to the Minister of Agriculture, but these people have to report to him. So there's a fair chance of him taking back exactly what the concerns are, especially if you come together as a consortium and you say, this is the issue, right?
That's a good point.
So people don't want to meet with the person beneath, even though that person has just as much sway and power and authority, because it's derived from the minister.
Except the PS isn't the politician, so you have to. It's a matter of doing the appropriate statecraft as someone, and PR as someone who people voted for.
Right.
So while functionally the PS can probably do the same thing,
they still want to see
people
that person.
They
but
still
I know
want
he
to see.
did meet with them, but I think they wanted more than what occurred in the first meeting. But again, he's only one person.
Yeah. I remember when we had that conversation, I was thinking, I kind of, like, I see your point, in some situations you could see where, yeah, maybe we probably need to see the minister, but yeah.
It's only one person. Well, we have farm report tomorrow, so hopefully they
Yeah,
have something good.
I wonder
to
I wonder who's
report.
coming tomorrow. I'll find out from Troy later on.
Because agriculture is important and it is a big sector, especially when we're discussing food security. So I can see, their distress of him maybe not being able to meet with them. But at some point, we kind of have to be like, all right,
And
we
you
got to
remember-
do it whether or not we see him.
And you remember we had a conversation where it was felt that tourism and culture sit better together than.
Yes, I still believe that.
I still. And the other thing, take for example, Samal has. This is the other thing I don't understand. Even on the PLP, when they had entertainment, and I'm like, why do you have entertainment separate from culture?
Right.
And that never made any sense.
Does he have entertainment as well?
Well, yeah, it comes on. It's where it's supposed to be on the culture.
Right.
But at the same time, he has small business. But then, don't we have a commerce ministry? Don't we have a trade and industry ministry? Shouldn't small business be part of that?
Fall under there.
So there's a lot of
Weird
there's a lot of
allocation.
illogical duplication, which I don't understand.
My description. I think it's.
What was yours?
Weird.
Weird.
Weird
Yeah,
allocation.
that's good too. Yeah, yeah.
Yours is actually very harsh.
Guys, we're not being hard on you. We're just saying, some of these things could be thought out much better, and I think ministerial appropriations could be done a lot more logically and synergistically, and also in such a way that the ministerial load is better managed.
Yeah, they must be exhausted.
Yeah, because when you have a guy, he has to be a brain surgeon. He has to be a water engineer,
Right.
and he has
That's
to
why
be
we have specialties in law and medicine and even teaching.
Exactly.
Hey.
It's kind of hard, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 10 o'clock. I got my Spin Cycle Power Hour coming up. Hope you're going to join me.
I will in
You
the
will
car.
join me? Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in.
Don't run off the road now.
I like that Janet Jackson song you played the other
okay,
day.
I'll play that. Actually, I was supposed to play it for you. I was planning to play it for you yesterday, and I got.
Oh no!
I got sidetracked yesterday, but yeah, I will. I got into this retro thing yesterday.
Oh boy. I think that's probably when I was slipping off my meds. Thank you so much for tuning in today, guys.
And join us tomorrow.
Hope you all have an awesome day today.
Yes.
See you tomorrow.
Yes, and as the lawyers say, continuation now. Except I'm changing the meaning. Continuation into Spin Cycle.
Good grief. Have a good one, everyone.
Okay.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Switch for a better mortgage with Bond. Come and visit us today and let's discuss your future. The Bank of Nevis Limited is encouraging all customers to come to the bank that cares. Switch for an attractive low interest rate, 100% financing. Yes, you heard correct. Additionally, up to 30 years repayment available. Commitment fee waived. Legal fee waived. And any additional fees can be included within the loan. That's right. We are providing solutions at Bond Strong. Switching has never been this easy. The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. Special terms and conditions apply. Offer ends July 30th, 2023.
You can put 100 grand on it. Anything I said, I stand on it.
Don't wanna waste my time, so don't make me beg tonight.
Buildings damaged by an earthquake are dangerous. This is not the time for sightseeing. You could be in personal danger and your presence could hamper emergency responses. Also, stay away from areas prone to landslides, low-lying coastal areas, lakes and streams that lead to the ocean. Do not head for the coast until local authorities tell you that the danger of a tsunami has passed. Curiosity can kill.
This message is sponsored by the Australian Government, AusAid, and produced by NEMA in collaboration with WINNFM.
It's official, Jamsters in the building.
Getting ready to drop the bomb on ya.
with